Alright guys, welcome back to the Regal Gentleman YouTube channel. Today we've got Marcus in the chair. How are you, mate?
Not too bad,
you good?
Cheers.
Awesome. Yeah. So what are we doing today? What's the plan?
So about 2 years ago I had a hair transplant. So basically had it done the day we went into lockdown.
Wow.
Before then...
Good timing.
Honestly, the perfect time.
Yeah.
Before then I just had like your typical like trying to hide a hairline, comb over.
Yeah.
And then since then I was buzzing it through lockdown and stuff like that. But because I'd not been able to really style my hair in any way I'd wanted to in the past, I don't really know what style I want. Usually getting like your typical like £10 haircut up north, so I've not really like thought on it too much, so thought really just get your guidance on it really.
Right, cool. Well, nice one for being honest about the hair transplant as well. I didn't know, I wouldn't have guessed. So you're doing a good job, mate. Well, looking at your face shape, you've got a very wide jaw. Right, very square, quite almost heart-shaped in a way, right? Just because of how it comes to a point. If it was a bit more pointy, it'd be perfectly heart-shaped, right? So we need to be careful how short we go on the sides and the back. That's one key thing we need to talk about. Some guys don't know they've got a round face or an oval face shape and things like that. So I'll try and explain what I can see, okay? I know you've got a beard, but it's very short. So that you can see that if you were shaved, you'd have a very wide jaw. Now you want to be careful how short you go around here because you don't want it to come out, in, then out. So you want, I would suggest keeping some length on the sides, right? Now, a good way to look at what we need to do on the sides and the back and what angle we need to work at, whether it's clippers or scissors or through our fingers or whatever it is the comb technique. Now this works a treat on everybody. I do it on every one of my clients, especially new clients, right? And that's the angle we're working at. Now, can you see how straight that comb is? Yeah. Right, just to give you some comparison to me.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right? Box head.
Square. We say square, okay? We don't say box. So as you can see, you need to keep length in. That's what I was saying. If you go too short here and too far out here, it'll dip in, it'll concave through here, and it'll make your face really wide. If you leave too much length in the sides, you can get away with it a little bit more. I'd probably say more length on the back and sides for you is better. And then obviously we can work at the top. But that's what I'd always start with, is just try and keep length in the sides, okay? Cool. Doesn't have, it could be like, you know, a 4, number 4, for example. It can still be a clipper. But I just wouldn't go down to your 1s or your 2s. And if you were gonna do that, you'd have to almost kind of go in one length, quite high, to keep the balance and the structure in there as well. I would say height is good. I think the flatter it goes, the wider it makes your face. So I think you need more height. I think when you get a little bit more height in there, it starts to balance out, starts to level out the wideness of the jaw as well. So I would always go for something that you've got a bit of lift in the fringe. But I don't think you need to have lots of hair. I think even my length would probably be too long for you. I'm trying to elongate my face. I've got a point, so a little bit of a secret, right? I'm trying to make my face thinner and longer, right? So I'm keeping more length on the chin, tapering here and going higher on my fringe. And that I'm hoping creates length in it, right? That's what I'm doing. What I think we could do in yours, I think if you were to go to maybe think about that much off the top, so you've got just enough to play around with, right? Do you know what I'd be tempted to show you? Haircut. I've got an image that I think you'd really suit. It's basically a David Beckham image, but I think your hair texture feels very similar to what I've never done this hair, unfortunately, but I've met him once. I've not met him. I've been in his presence once, right? I've seen his hair, and obviously that's the first thing I looked at. You know, obviously. But in my industry as well, he was like, when I was starting off, I started maybe 5 years before he came on the scene with his mohawks and stuff. So that was something that he elevated our industry massively. But I just want to show you an image that I think we should look at in terms of style. Now, that's what I was thinking. Not as short as that on the sides of the back, but that kind of length I think would work really well for you. Yeah. That kind of length. That kind of thing, because I feel like your hair colour and maybe I think it might be even as thick as yours as well. But I'm not saying maybe you can leave it a bit longer than that, but that kind of, maybe not as spiky, maybe not as brush forwards, but something that is going to be not as heavy and long. A scissor cut on the back and side, so but like short, but just enough that I can kind of still balance through this bit here. And then we'll see what it looks like, and then if we can get away with the taper, and we can definitely do a taper on the neck. I just don't know about here. I'd have to see it as we're going shorter to work it out. But then on the top, what about if we'd done it to a length that was just enough, maybe take about that much off, so then that way you can have a little bit of bend in it, but you've got a bit of height in there, show off your hairline. If it was like that, imagine that's being cut in, that's a bit shorter, that kind of thing, you know? So it's not like necessarily spiky, but just so you've got a length in there you can just play around with. Maybe put a bit of powder, a bit of styling powder in, strengthen it up, and then maybe finish with a little bit of clay or something, just to get that fullness to the top. I think it would look quite nice for you. Low maintenance though as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, all right, cool man. Cool man. All right, well, let's get you gowned up. We get started, all right? Cool man. Right, so I've wet down Marcus's hair. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in a horseshoe section, okay? Now, I want to separate the top to the back and sides. I know I do it in nearly every video, but it works. I always base my haircuts on wearable haircuts. You know, I do love all the creative stuff. I love the avant-garde kind of styles, but it's not really me day to day. So I want to give him a wearable haircut that is going to look good every day when he does it himself. And that is what we're looking for, okay? Now this is why doing a horseshoe section, separating the back and sides works. Now I've only wet the top, okay? Because I want to do the back and sides as dry as I possibly can because I really want to see how this starts to fall. Now I also need to be a bit more wary of how I work on his hairline as well, because don't forget, that hairline's been added in there in certain parts. So obviously I need to be careful. I can't cut it like I would do a natural hairline. I have to be a little bit more wary. So I'm just making sure that any of the hairs that are fallen out from the fringe, I'm putting back in because I want to leave them till the end. This is something that you can work with any hairline, like pretty much any hairline. I'm gonna go as short as I can now, right? But again, let's bear in mind the face shape that we're working with, okay? So I want to try and not build up too much bulk through here, but enough that I can connect the top into. So again, that's gonna be keeping it as sort of symmetrical as possible all the way down. That's what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna do scissor over comb. So I think that'll be a nice finish for them as well. 2 fingers below the section. Scissor in, lift it up, elevate it, and cut. We always tend to leave a little bit more hair towards the crown and get a bit shorter through the back. Now we can still do that because we're gonna use our guide from this point here. So anything below that, I'm going to taper out. Anything above that, I'm going to keep. So that is where the guide will come to above the ears. So if you think about it, we want to try and not taper it too much on the sides. So this is where the guide will come from here, this section. Nothing below, so I can get away with going shorter down the bottom. And I just work back up into the previous sections just to make it really, really sort of fluid, and you can see there's no lines, there's no steps. I'm almost blending in the scissor over comb as I'm working through it as well. Now the spine of the comb is touching the nape of markers here, and then as we work up, we just pull the comb slowly further and further away from the head. That's what creates a nice seamless scissor work. Lift it up, guide from the right hand side, elevation. I start to work back up into my sections now. The shorter I start to go, make it really seamless. That's where I start to place the comb, the spine of the comb, closer and closer to the hairline. And just do some cross check. There we go. Elevate, guide from the right hand side of the comb, cut. So that's starting to sit more level. So what we can do, we can get away with maybe going a bit shorter over the ear and tapering this side bend, and maybe just tapering the side bend a little bit, but just about the side bend, more than too high up. So that's where you can feel where the bone is there. You can see where it concaves as my finger runs over it. See the landscape there, can't you? Yeah. So we'll just taper that little bit there, all right? And then we'll go a bit tighter on the neck when we get to the trimmers. Same again now. So by working from the center to the left-hand side, the flow of the scissor over comb works really well, because my hand comes in from the right, takes the section, the comb goes over, and then I cut. Still on the same distance. There's my guide from the left-hand side. There's the hair that I'm cutting. You can see the elevation on it. Teeth of the comb are facing up towards the ceiling, slightly over towards me. The spine of the comb is what I'm using to cut through. Same again. Both even, both sides. There we go. Now, I'm going to work onto the trimmers now. So I'm going to start to work over the ears and see how that looks, and then we'll work onto the sideburn. All right? So, just going to start off by strengthening up the temple here. And the beard looks very natural, so I'm not going to arch the temple too much. Just want to give it a bit of strength. Just capping off the ends like so. And then just going to work it into the beard as well. Already got a good one, so don't need to do any more. As we get to the sideburn, that's when I'll start to taper this a little bit. As you can see, I'm just strengthening up the neckline too. So we're not cutting into anything too harsh or anything that's going to cause a lot of stubble to grow out from the temple to the neckline. Just going to do the neck here to make it a bit more symmetrical, and I'll start the taper now as well. So I've switched trimmers just because I find these a bit smoother. A little bit of a longer blade at the back as well. I find it tapers it a bit easier as well when you're doing clipper over comb or trimmer over comb. I'm going to work it a bit shorter because just in case there could be any scarring through the back here as well, we've got to take that into consideration. I don't want to expose that neither. So I'm just doing a nice taper down the very bottom, like so. So it looks nice and neat. Again, it gives that shorter element to the haircut as well. And my whole aim for this cut, as well as obviously it balancing into the face shape and stuff as well, is that I don't want it to look as though we've done something bespoke for a reason. For Marcus, I just want it to look like a nice haircut. So I'm not looking like, I don't want to leave like loads of length here just in case you might have a bit of scarring or something. The last thing I want to do is make it look more obvious. I want it to look as though it's just meant to be there, done for him. So that's why I'm still adding the taper in, just not going too high. I'm not kind of trying to expose anything that I don't want to, but I'm also not trying to leave something to make it look as though we're leaving it there for a reason, okay? That's why I'm keeping the taper low. There we go. Now, how is the back and sides looking for you? Is that looking short enough for you?
Yeah, it looks good.
You sure, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Whatever you think will fit in best with it.
Yeah.
I haven't had a haircut in a while, so...
No worries. Well, have a little look. That's how it looks from the back. So it does almost look like it's been clippered.
Yeah.
So it is taken in. It's nice and short towards the bottom. It's nice and tidy. It's just not a mega short haircut, okay? But it probably is maybe like a number 5 or something in length like that, if you were looking with a clipper, all right? Now, on the top, are you happy to go with what we spoke about as well? Yeah? Sweet.
Yeah. Can't remember the last time I had scissors on the back of my hair.
Oh really? Yeah.
So usually always just, it's like a get in, get out kind of job, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's usually a massive queue, right? And you know, yeah. I've worked places like that before where you just want to get everyone out, you know. Yeah. So you know, it's one of those things though. It's that like you can do a scissor cut and a clipper cut in probably about the same amount of time, if I'm honest.
Oh really?
Well, think about it. Clipper do the number 2, then do the number 1, 1.5, taper it, line it out, then clipper over comb. If you do scissor over comb, you can get the whole thing done in the same time. Depending on how short you're going, obviously, you know. So I'm going to start from the front of this because this is where I want to work from. Now, I'm taking a section that's maybe a finger width, okay? And I'm going to cut it to the length that we said before, which is about that, all right? I'm going to cut it quite a harsh, acute angle, not straight though, okay? So there's going to be a blunt element to it because we need to strengthen up the hair because it does feel a bit dry and a bit fine there. I think it might have been thinned out maybe or something like that, so I want to try and strengthen that up a little bit.
That's probably from a home job I did.
Oh, maybe. There we go. So I just want to try and strengthen that up. So without going completely blunt, it just gives a bit more of a kind of stronger finish. I'm still following the same guide towards the back. I'm just getting just before the actual crown. There we go. Following the hairline round. So with my fingers following around, my body also shifts. Tilt the head back a little bit. There we go. Lift that up. Straight up with my fingers. Guide, guide. You can see it's fairly straight, but there still is an element of a point into there as well. There we go, we get just before the crown. I bring this back into the recession point of there. And we cut that to match. Now I'm going to cut that nice and straight because I will point cut into it at the very end. But again, this is all about the primary shape, okay? This is about how the sides sit into the face shape. This isn't about texture or that. This is just about the cut, especially through the sides. Everything else I can put some texture into the sides later. But I just need this to sit absolutely flush with the scissor work. We start to drop it down a little bit as well. Coming from the crown, remember? It's not actually cutting the crown itself, I'm cutting the sections below the crown. Just like the crosby length of the crown, it's falling into this, but it's also connecting as well. So make sure we comb it out into shape. Like so. Pick the section up and cut. We'll see where our cuts were done. There we go. I'm keeping that same finger width section. And the session point. Guide from the top, guide from underneath. Nice and straight, fingers are nice and straight. And we'll cut it. I just work on this angle. I'm going to point cut into this bit because it looks quite thick through here. So I'm picking that up. I'm just going to point cut into this to really break it up. Same through here. Pick this up and point cut into there as well. We've left our nice little corner. And now we cut the fringe in. I'm going to keep a little bit of length in there as well. So I'm going to look behind it. There's a guide from a section previous. Cut that nice and straight. I'm start to angle this over a little bit to connect into the recession. So it comes down a slight angle. If we do it on the point, it'll work either way as well. And then what we do is we work horizontally to connect the fringe in. There's a little point, connect that in. So everywhere connects in, everywhere balances, keeping the length at the front. One last section. Now with the crown, I always take the section before it, pull it completely out horizontally, and I connect in this way. So as you pull it out, if anything needs to come off, we cut it. If it doesn't, then we leave it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start to texturise it a little bit now because it starts to dry off. So I can texturise it a bit more now. So I just pick it up and just point cutting into it as well. Not aggressively, not over the top, just enough to kind of break it up, because again, we want to work with thickness through the hair. We don't want to thin it out too much. We just want to add a little bit of texture, so a little bit of movement in there. And just by breaking up by point cutting down to my fingers like that, it just adds a little bit of natural texture to it. Now, last but not least, what we do is on that blend, that transition, we cut into that now as well. So head over this way for me, tilt it over, that's it. And we point cut into that straight line. At the front, a slice towards the very top, break it up a little bit. So, how's the length looking for you, mate?
Yeah, it looks sweet.
Yeah?
Sick, yeah.
Cool.
Perfect length.
Awesome. Right, so what we'll do now is I'm going to put a little bit of the thickening tonic in, okay? This is the label Men, okay? Now, again, it does exactly what it says, but what you'll do is you put it into your hair when it's a little bit damp, right? As you apply heat, it will swell the hair, okay? So that's essentially what they do. They make the hair feel thicker and look thicker, okay? Now, what I'm gonna do it with my fingers. I don't want to use a brush. I want it to be super low maintenance, really easy to do. Medium speed, but a high heat, okay? Start from the crown, and just work up through like this. Okay. Now, to style. So what we've done, we've put the thickening tonic in there to give it more of a thicker finish, right? And thicker appearance, which I think it does actually looking at it as well, right? But now we've balanced out the face shape as well, so you can see nothing's too out of place. Yeah. Now to finish off, I would probably use a little bit of powder, if that's okay. Yeah. You ever used powder before?
Yeah, I've got some.
You got some?
Yeah,
cool.
a little bit.
Awesome. I want to add a bit more fullness to, okay? Just like this. It's not a lot. You don't want to put loads on, okay? Just a little bit. To plump up the root, okay? Like that. Okay? Then, as it's all up, put it over the top. And then you get a much thicker finish. There we go. And that's what you're left with.
That's it.
Looks nice, doesn't it, man?
Yeah, that's really good.
And what I do, just because you want the fringe to stay a bit more up, a little bit of hairspray. Don't spray it all over because you're not looking for that solid hold, right? What you do, in your fingers, and just go from the root. Yeah, just as I added a little bit of extra strength, a bit of hold, and the rest of it is completely pliable, okay? But I think that looks really nice on you, that man. Everything balances in, doesn't look, you know, I think everything just works really well. Shoot the back and sides as well, man. That's how it sits from the back and sides.
That's perfect, thank you very much.
See how the top looks really nice and thick as well?
Yeah, it's
nice, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
Everything just balances, which is what I was trying to aim for, like, so. Glad you're happy. Yeah,
perfect.
That's great. I'm very happy with that, man. Thank you very much, buddy.
Thanks for doing it.
You're very welcome, mate. Thank you.